It's past midnight, but someone is awake and rattling about in the old house.
The former governess goes up to the attic room in search of the sneak.
She hears an echo of children laughing. But there are no children at Mirth Manor.
This is One from the Vaults.
Pull a blanket up under your chin as we tuck into a tale of ghostly terror.
And those from To the Side reveal what becomes of our souls.
I beg your pardon.
Our souls.
Oh, thank fudge for that.
Hello, listeners.
Oh, I like what you did there.
Yeah, like I was a ghost.
That's right.
Just exactly like a ghost.
Is that why you're wearing the white sheet then?
Exactamundo.
You do know the listeners can't see you though.
Like a ghost.
Hey, he's just getting into the spirit of the episode, eh? Yeah?
Oh, yeah. I don't get it.
Are you wearing a pointy hat under there?
Yeah, it's from my live-action role-playing days as a Grand Warlock. I used to be such a nerd.
Wait, did you travel here dressed like that?
I did. I had to walk the whole way, though, because I weren't allowed on the bus. The driver must have been scared of ghosts, and he weren't the only one. Several people spat at me and said I weren't welcome round here.
It's hardly a convincing ghost costume. People can be so very ignorant.
Right. Well, this is us. Clint, Warren, Rufus.
Hello!
Ah! Sorry. I thought you were a ghost for a second there.
We three make up the mostly surviving members of the Sinema Society.
And that's cinema with an S, like sinful, sinister, Sinbad.
You might say we're the Sinbadist boys in B-movie podcasting.
We cover the long-lost movies of the infamous Anvil Studios. And this week, we'll be discussing an iconic classic of haunted house horror cinema.
A spine-tingling, corpse-dangling, nerve-wrangling ghost train of a film.
Hide beneath your bed sheets as we converse on the Spookening.
Spookening.
Is that a bedsheet you're wearing, Rufus?
How can you tell?
Just going off the very human stains.
No. Oh, no.
I am Russell Roswell, a scientist of the supernatural. Yes, it is a real thing. I came to Mirth Manor to find undeniable proof of the paranormal. The house is a haunt for malevolent spirits. Just ask the owner, Mrs. Smurthwaite.
I wouldn't spend the night in here for all the tea in Tunbridge Wells.
Though her nephew Erwin may take some convincing.
Ghosts? Ha! Put your poppycock away, my good man.
This is Thora Hinge. She's a human antenna for spectral activity.
People say, if these walls could talk. But to me, they do.
And then there's innocent Miss Melody Gubbins, tormented by the past.
They know I'm here. They know I came back.
I'm afraid nobody can leave. Not in this fog. It's too thick.
Oh, and that's the groundskeeper, Dudley Dodkins. He comes with the house.
Do the dead linger to torment the living?
Keep your ice-cold hands to yourself, Dr. Roswell.
I never touched you, Melody. And I'm not strictly speaking a doctor.
Then, who was fondling my bottom?
Do the dead linger to torment the living? Anvil Studios, who presented Eleanor Swan in Gasp and such outstanding motion pictures as Slave Unto the Moon, Blood Pudding, and Sins on a Tuesday, now brings you a most harrowing movie, The Spookening. Based upon the best-selling Chiller by Malorie Vetch, and brought to the screen for those too lazy to read by Cecil Nugent in perfect Spanavism.
Do the dead linger to torment the living?
Starring an array of leading names in contemporary entertainment. Peter East, Norman Roman, and Una Lowe.
I have a dreadful suspicion that if I were to die in this house, I would never leave. Never leave. Never leave. Sorry, I have a cold.
Try not to scream as you endure every cursed second of The Spookening.
What are you talking about, Miss Gubbins? What children?
Can't you hear them? Can't you see them? What do they want? I hear them, Mel. They want you.
Do the dead linger to torment the living?
By the latter mid-late 50s, the executives at Anvil were well aware of how lucrative horror cinema could be, and were looking all over for the next spooker.
Producer Vivian Devan Deval piped up with what you might call a novel idea.
I get loads of ideas staring at my belly button too.
That's naval.
Like Marines.
That's naval.
You just said the same thing again there, Clint.
It's a homophone.
Whoa, who is?
I always thought the Navy were very welcoming to the BLT community.
We've barely started.
You confused yourself, Clint. It's very simple. The producer got his idea from eating a bacon salad sandwich on a boat, right?
Right.
Vivian's novel idea was to adapt a very famous book.
Oh, like a novel.
Bingo.
Now that makes sense. Much more than Clint and his bigoted belly button.
What?
Vivian Devan Deval was introduced to the work of American author Malorie Vetch by his latest close personal assistant, Cecil, an avid fanatic of hers.
Ms. Vetch's biggest hit was the 1946 page-turner, The Walls of Mirth Manor.
And young Cecil Nugent had turned those pages, at least several times.
The book was such a hit upon release that Hollywood had sought the rights to make it a movie, but Malorie Vetch was like, mate, you can do one.
She feared the filmmakers would make a right ash of a psychologically nuanced fiction with too many, what she called, bumps, jumps and chumps.
Yet Ms. Vetch had a dramatic change of heart during a trip to merry olde England in the bleak early weeks of 1953. The author was signing books at a shop on Charing Cross Road, but a blizzard of midwinter hail meant very few of her readers braved the elements to show up.
Bearing a well-worn copy of her novel and his own fresh manuscript, her greatest admirer approached with the nervous energy of a tiny, inbred dog.
Like a dog sandwich?
Nope. Malorie recalls this exact moment in the infamous 1977 documentary about the making of this Anvil screen adaptation, From Book to Spook.
A warning, this documentary was made over 40 years ago and, well, some of the language used by Ms. Vetch may make you want to cry.
Yes, I recall glancing up and saw this mincing fruitcake flapping his gums at me about how much he adored my book. Always so excitable, ain't they? Waving his limp wrist in my face, saying he's turned it into a film. And I tell him, listen, Mary, I don't care if you're the Queen of England, you're not turning my book into some silly screamer. But he begs me to read it, and I do, because these homos are so prone to hysterics. And you know something? The little queer had real talent. I read the whole thing right there in the store. When I was done with his script, I was exhilarated, breathless, spent. The counter girl asked if I wanted a fag. And I said I already got one, sweetheart.
You get the idea.
What a homophone.
Cecil's dearly devoted adaptation had won over Miss Vetch, and she agreed that Anvil were the right choice for bringing her novel to the screen.
It was all falling into place for producer Vivian de Van der Waal, often referred to as the Fat Cat of Acton, less so for his business acumen, and more down to his sizable girth, whiskery moustache, and penchant for purring when content.
And this fat cat had just got the cream.
Does Damien ever get the cream out of you?
Odd way of saying it.
He's actually gone right off Dairy since his inexplicable reanimation.
Still behaving a bit oddly, is he?
He's been catching a lot more mice
Well, that's perfectly normal for a cat.
and using their blood to draw pentagrams on a kitchen floor
Ah,
and fashioning a sort of crown out of their little mice skulls.
Right. So, back to the film.
yup. The original title had been The Walls of Mirth Manor, same as the inspirational novel, but Vivian de Van der Waal fancied something catchier.
The producer prodded his protege into thinking up a snappier name, but the young Cecil was reluctant to change anything about his first ever screenplay.
Yet, true to his moniker, the Fat Cat of Acton would often hiss and even scratch them who rubbed him up the wrong way.
As several of his previous personal secretaries could attest.
Whose moniker? His wife?
This initial dispute between artist and exec was just the nub of the lettuce.
You mean the tip of the iceberg?
Same thing.
The ideal lettuce actually has no tip, but it is a perfect sphere. Greatest of all shapes.
Like a bra.
Right.
Don't do that.
Do what?
Say right, like that.
Why?
It's sort of my thing.
You didn't invent the word right.
I know, only it's kind of what listeners know me for.
Listener? Singular?
Not if you count each ear as an independent audience member.
Right.
Stop it! Can we please just stick to our roles? Rufus, he's the idiot.
Oi! No, I'm the one with the lady fiancée.
Not sure what that has to do with anything.
So you're bad-tempered, Rufus is stupid. What do I get?
Dead cat?
Right.
Have we got another film clip?
We do, but I'm not sure it'll make much sense out of context.
Could you pop it on anyway? I'm just going to step outside and stomp on some daffodils.
Right. Wait, those are my daffodils!
And that scene happens at some point in the film. Scary, isn't it?
Should we just wait for him to come back, or...?
I suppose so. So what I was going to... No, what I meant... Anyway, the... No, you speak, Warren.
Well, I was just going to say that I'm a bit put out. Clint noticed your robes, but never asked about mine, and these are much less glue stain than yours.
Oh, Warren, no, I'm ever so sorry. I'd have said, only I can't really see much through these eye holes. I cut them a bit small. Hang on. Oh, yeah, no, you look very smart, but how come yours are black? You being a black ghost? Because I don't think that's allowed.
No, these are my ceremonial garbs for the 4th Midshipman's Order.
Oh, the secret fraternity we learned that you joined in episode 5.
That's right. I got a meeting with the shipheads right after this.
Very nice. And how is it, being a member of an ancient elite organisation?
Oh, it's brilliant. I can't tell you.
Actually, while Clint's gone, yeah, you know how me and Dora are getting itched?
Oh, yes. I am very looking forward to it.
Well, mate, I wanted to ask if you'd like to be my...
Oh, hang on. He's coming back in.
How was the clip?
A lot of angry, loud nonsense.
How was your stomping?
Very much the same. I may have smashed a bit of your greenhouse.
I haven't got a greenhouse.
Your car, then. Something with glass in it.
Should we?
We should.
Despite Nugent's juvenile protestations of the film's title, Vivian de Van der Waal swung his impressive producer's clout to secure a new name for his movie.
And secured a brilliant but unknown visionary to direct his The Spookening.
Hiring for a criminally low fee the soon-to-be filmic genius, Lennox Friel.
And if a tiny bell of recognition began a chiming in the back of your mind at his name, then prepare for a full orchestra of bells when you hear what Lennox Friel got up to next.
After an opening salvo with Anvil, the director's career soared with Oscar-sweeping so-called masterpieces, like 1975's Helen's Personal Armageddon.
If the world truly feels it has any right whatsoever to keep on revolving away, now that my beloved Parker is off to Kuala Lumpur to cure blind children in the war or something, then perhaps it is no woman's task but mine own to prevent it from continuing to do so unabated. This really is my personal Armageddon.
In 1982, Friel also directed Catherine Burdowski's Swan Song, the musical Swan Song.
Swans, they really do have such small feet.
Not to mention his solitary flirtation with European art house cinema with 1994's The Purple Rain of Bergerac, or to use the more common French title, Pendant l'été, il fait toujours plus chaud que l'enfer, mais aussi moins froid que la mer.
But Cécile, does Paris no longer reside within your heart? We two had such love for this once great city, no?
Ach, Bernard, war is coming. And Monsieur Hitler, he holds my heart now.
Like many directors, Friel got a bit sympathetic for the old Nazis towards the end.
But when filming The Spookening, little Lennox was naught but a small mound of clay, pliable in the ever-moist hands of Fat Cat de Van der Waal.
With a novice director and debut writer under his ever-sweaty thumb, Vivian was able to shape this film, more or less, into whatever he desired it to be.
The chilling subtleties of Vetch's writing soon went right out the window. Quite literally in the scene where a stone gargoyle is tossed through a stained glass pane and crushes old Mrs. Smurthwaite stood beneath.
And Malorie was not best pleased.
I wanted to spit blood in their eyes, really, after what they did to my book. Take my opening paragraph. Give it here. Fetch me a bourbon. Now, listen to this creepy piece of... Sanity is nothing but a lie that madmen whisper to stave off nightmares in the dark. What some consider souls are but echoes of what we did in life, fading into nothing once we are gone. At Mirth Manor, such screams are held back behind the walls and resonate eternally, and those who enter can never unhear them. And do you want to know what they wrote as the first line in the movie? Boy, does this place give me the willies. You can see why I'm angry, right?
There you have it.
Not keeping you awake, are we, Warren?
Oh, sorry, I didn't get much sleep last night.
You told me you slept like a log.
Yeah, logs don't sleep.
Damien the cat keeping you awake again.
Oh, no, I started crushing nitole into his corned beef. He was sound asleep on the ceiling when I went to bed. It's just that every time I closed my eyes, it was like there was a voice whispering something in my ear.
Tinnitus.
No, it came through very clear, not tinny at all.
What did the voice say?
Vindictum mea orbis.
Pardon?
I said I don't remember.
Sounds like a migraine.
Yeah, you really want to switch to whole grain.
Did this whispering go on all night?
Well, it got to about 4 a.m. and the voice was mostly gone, so I was finally getting off.
Oi, oi!
To sleep. Then all of a sudden my room was boiling hot. Absolutely roasting. like sitting in a greenhouse in the middle of summer wearing a big cardie.
I thought you didn't have a greenhouse.
I couldn't move or scream or readjust my underpants. Just pinned to the bed as it got hotter and hotter. There was sweat dripping in my eyes. And then...
You died?
How? How could he have died and be sat here talking to us?
Ghost? Hang on.
Ow! You hit me in the face!
I wanted to see if I could put my hand through you, like a ghost.
He is not a ghost. He had a bad dream.
It wasn't a dream. But when I woke up, the heat was gone and I could talk. I said biscuit out loud 7 times just to be sure.
Ah, you're quite right. There's no way of actually talking to a ghost.
Seance?
Once.
Anyway, that's enough about me. A podcast really isn't the place for blokes just endlessly talking about themselves. It's a completely ego-free art form.
Indeed. Let's listen to a brief chilling snippet from today's film. This clip was recovered from the blowhole of that whale what swam up the Thames that one time.
As I said in my latest research paper to be denied publication, every human body is a vessel of their own lineage, an echo chamber of ancestry, dating back to the very beginning of time. Even a simple bumpkin like Dodkins here hosts every member of his family within him.
Oh yes, sir. I believe it. I am bereaved like my father was bereaved before me. I come from a long line of bereaved men. All their fathers died, you see.
Nothing to do with what I said, but thank you for trying.
What piffle. I find these yarns as crooked as the chaps who peddled them.
I understand. We all embody the souls of those who preceded us. Sometimes I feel the flames from the fire a distant grandmother was burnt on as a witch.
Shall I open a window to cool you down?
Not the point I was making, but thank you for trying.
And like us, this house embodies all the tortured spirits and foul deeds that have taken place between these walls.
I'll get the door.
That knock wasn't coming from outside, but thank you for trying.
With a firm, clammy grasp on the production, Vivian de Van der Waal was forever inserting his own increasingly idiotic ideas into the film.
Such unwarranted insertions were painful for the young creatives.
Cecil Nugent nearly wept at the suggestion of a skeleton chase sequence.
Lennox Friel fainted at the producer's demand for wailing portraits.
And all the actors nearly quit when they were told their characters were to be possessed into performing a ghoulish dance routine.
Eventually, the cast and crew began filming their own scenes in secret, behind the scenes, if you will. Filming took place by night after the official day's shoot was over and the fat cat had trotted off to his nest.
Do cats sleep in nests?
Our one does. It's made of broken dream catchers.
And so this second shadow version of the Spookening began to take shape.
All under the wet, shiny nose of the fat cat of Acton.
There were several close calls in which Vivian almost stumbled across the late-night reshoots, returning to the studio after forgetting his coat, or with a mistress, or forgetting his mistress's coat.
On one occasion, Nugent and Friel were able to convince a tipsy de Van der Waal that they were actually filming a totally different picture on the same set for budgetary reasons.
But there was no such film as Beware the Bloody Butler.
Not until Nugent wrote a screenplay for that title 1 year later.
Vivian believed the tall tale. Curiosity never did get the better of this cat.
Though he did once question the becobwebbed white gown he saw actress Eleanor Swan wearing one day. Unlike in the book, Vivian felt her character should remain in a silky sleek black dress for added sex appeal.
When questioned, the head of costume, Perry Gryn, thought on his feet.
And also in his brain.
Telling the producer Eleanor was merely modelling the gown, which she'd stitched up for his fiancée, a female bodybuilder by the name of Marta.
So the wide muscles side hustle was for bride muscle.
According to Mr. Gryn, and de Van der Waal fell for the fib.
Yet this second true spookening could not remain a secret forever.
Come back after this interlude to learn what became of the Phantom Flick.
Vinendictem mea orbis.
And we are back.
Like the Backstreet Boys.
Like Doreen's crispy backskin.
You do one, Clint.
Oh, back. Like the instrumental composer of the Brandenburg concertos.
Attaboy, you can be fun.
Ignore what your mother Gillian says about you on Twitter.
You too can publicly criticise us online by following us at Cinema Society.
Right.
Trying to get that back too, eh?
By April of 1953, filming on both versions of the Spookening was reaching an end when Vivian got wind of the alternate production from one of the actors.
Bertram Mallister, the 83-year-old playing the role of housekeeper Dudley Dodkins, had already been diagnosed as comically senile and told Vivian to his face how much better the film being shot in secret was, believing the producer to be a large bundle of coats he was confiding in.
The proverbial cat was out of the bag.
Me ouch! That's gotta hurt.
What?
I'm being fun, Clint. Be fun.
Pardon me?
Terrible.
I could put Damien in a bag, but he'd always get out.
What's that?
I said Vivian was furious when he found out the truth.
Now that's more like it.
Now, with two versions of the film almost in the can, which pick would the Flick Studio pick? De Van de Val's ham-fisted generic ghost train, or Nugent and Friel's disturbing paranormal thriller?
So, like football matches, marriage counselling, and courtroom cases involving badger murder, the decision was handed to an independent adjudicator.
That last one seemed oddly specific.
Yeah, you got a really far-off look in your eyes, Rufus.
Oh no, that's my new contact lenses. The more I put in, the blurrier things get.
You do know to take the old ones out before you put the next set in, right?
Yeah, of course.
Anvil turned to their consultant Malcolm Gordon to weigh in on the issue.
Malcolm Gordon, a familiar name on this podcast, was considered by dint of his slender frame, agile reflexes, and semi-translucent skin to be least at threat from one of the fat cat's notorious scratchings, and duly proclaimed the creative's version of the Spookening to be the scarier, and therefore superior film of the two. Vivian de Vanderval was apoplectic.
The fat cat of Acton hissed, spat furbles, clawed the furniture, pissed up the walls. Sorry, no, I'm thinking of an actual cat. The metaphor escaped me.
Vivian actually swore eternal vengeance against Anvil, threatening to produce a rival ghost film of his own. But ironically, his new film, The Ghosting, never followed through, and de Van de Val himself seemed to be ghosting everyone.
Cecil and Lennox were left to complete the Spookening their way.
As in the book, the film reaches a heart-pounding climax when the former governess Melody realises the ghost children wish for her to join them.
Speaking of climax and pounding, Doreen and I were...
Don't you dare finish that sentence.
Upon seeing the children hiding behind the flowers in the wallpaper, Melody seems to step into the pattern and enters the walls, becoming one of the many souls trapped within Mirth Manor.
How's that for spookening?
As the soggy spring of 1953 became a sizzling summer, those working at the studio began to sniff an awful scent of indeterminate provenance.
All season long, the fetid stench made working in the studio unbearable.
Until one day, a collective noun of stray cats found their way onto the set of Anvil's latest film, Zoons, a creature, and began pawing at one particular spot on the wall. Keen to know what fixated the felines, crew members began to break through the brickwork and made a horrifying discovery.
It was the bloated corpse of the fat cat of Acton himself, Vivian de Vanderval.
And despite being sealed in a wall, the lungs were found to contain seawater.
It was concluded that Vivian had been forcibly drowned, hence the bloating.
No, I think it was already like that.
After all, cats cannot swim. Can they?
No.
Good to know.
However the gastrically embiggened body of the producer had ended up in the studio walls, the Spookening was now out in cinemas.
And the film was considered a hit, a most terrifying hit. Even legendary critic Evan Bradshaw denounced the movie as a sublime amalgamation of superstition and psyche that transcends the genre into a realm of existential examination into the fragile grip we have on reality versus the unknown.
What does that mean?
It was dead creepy.
Then that's what he should have said, Tosser.
Following the success of their film, Cecil Nugent and Lennox Friel actually became members of Malcolm Gordon's Rickmansworth branch of that elitist boys' club, the 4th Midshipmen's Order. What a coincidence, eh?
That reminds me, actually, should we wrap up here then of A Place to Be?
Hang on. For, like a budget magician at a crack kid's party, our tale has one more flourish up its oversized sleeve.
When Malorie Vetch attended the premiere of her book's big screen adaptation, so miffed was she with every little discrepancy to her novel that she stood on her seat at the screening and yelled, "This is not my film."
Which, in every single way, she was absolutely correct. She'd not contributed to any of it.
Though we suspect that was not exactly what she meant.
In this final excerpt of the documentary From Book to Spook, made 24 years after the film's initial release, Ms. Vetch explains her denouncement.
Again, just to warn you, this clip is from the 70s and the woman is not exactly what you'd call awoke.
When I said this is not my film, it was the truth. When you create a work of fiction, it is the same as giving birth to a child. It's painful, bloody, and often a disappointment. But it is yours. Until one day some other writer comes and gets their grubby hands all over your baby. And then your infant is handed over to some director to get their grubby hands all over it. Then he just passes it around the actors so they too can have their grubby way with it. Eventually, inevitably, your darling child falls into the grubbiest hands of all.
And who's that?
The Jews.
Wow.
Turns out, besides certain psychological subtleties, the original novel also had some serious subtext on Aryan purity, which didn't make it into the film.
In the later mid-80s, Vetch actually penned her own self-funded 12-part television miniseries called The Real Spookening, which stuck stringently to the original novel to an almost insufferable degree.
Plus bonus mind-numbing exposition.
As noted in this clip from episode 4 of the series.
Say there, Dodkins, I was admiring the flora in these grounds you keep.
Yes, Dr. Roswell, we have all manner of plant life here.
Iris?
Yes, sir.
Dahlia?
Yes.
Orchids?
Yep.
Roses?
Mm-hmm.
Carnations?
You bet.
Tulips?
Oh, yeah.
White sage?
And hemlock.
And I've been meaning to ask about the stonework along the battlements. The gargoyles seem to predate the house itself.
That's right. This stonework is much older than Mirth Manor.
Just how old is it, Dodkins?
Why don't you care to guess, sir?
I would hazard 18th century?
Nope.
17th century?
Guess again.
16th century?
Not there yet.
14th century?
You overshot a little there.
15th century? Gosh, that old, huh?
And how, sir?
And what an interesting color the evening sky is. What shade might you call it, Dodkins? Puce?
Not quite.
Amber?
No.
That scene keeps going for 7 more minutes.
Blimey, I'm glad she's dead.
Oh no, she's still very much with us. 108 years old and still writing. Her latest novel, Go Back to Where You Came From, brackets, in this case hell, went straight to 712th in the fiction charts.
So, like the battered old crone who wrote it, the story of the Spookening refuses to die. Although the film was very much burnt, along with the rest of the Anvil collection, in the studio fire of 1968.
But unfortunately, the film in book form is still very much available.
And we too come to the end of another chapter in our podcast.
Vindictem mea orbis.
So, that was The Spookening, and if you have any questions, thoughts, or left field interpretations of the film, novel, or dreadful 80s miniseries, then please consider emailing us, cinemasociety@gmail.com.
If you do follow our socials, eagle-eyed fans will have seen...
Fan.
I count each eye as independent fans. You'll have noted our next episode delves into the fetid mania of Anvil's unexpected zombie thriller,
Island of the Not
Quite Dead. And we've had a personal invitation to a brand new collection of previously unseen cine paraphernalia from a fan of this particular film.
To continue his bold new trend for leaving his house for reasons other than his medically prescribed swimming lessons, Warren will be visiting this treasure trove of Anvil memorabilia himself.
Can I not come too?
When I mentioned it, you said you're in court that day.
Or is it the 27th? Oh, God, yeah. Doreen versus Badgers. To be honest, they got a very strong defence. She'll need all the support she can get.
Right. Well, that was us talking about the Spookening.
They're called Britain's most aggressive land mammal for a reason.
I've been Clint.
I'm Warren.
And I'm Tom.
Nope.
Jonathan.
Try again.
And I'm Paul.
Rufus.
And I'm Rufus.
And this has been...
One from the...
Oh, who's that now?
Oh, probably my neighbour Lou. He's always after something, that one. Cup of sugar, couple of eggs, pint of blood. Hang on. Hello? Hello? Oh, nobody there.
What if it were a ghost?
It's not a ghost.
Oh, I can speak, ghost. Allow me. Hello? Nah, it'll have just been the wind or kids or something else that isn't a ghost.
Well, whoever it was, they've ruined the ending.
Should we try it again?
Hold up. What's that on the floor?
Oh, it's just a bit of paper.
Well, someone might have slid it under the door.
What's it say?
Vindicate my orbs.
Filthy buggers.
Don't take his word for it. Rufus can barely read. Give it to you.
Well, I don't know Spanish, do I?
It's Latin.
Wait, what does it say?
Vindictem mea orbis.
Oh. One from the Vaults is a co-production between the Cinema Society and Medium Rare Productions. It was written and performed by Joel Heritage, Jacob Lovick, and Jack Robertson, with additional performances by David Fisher, Sam Harlow, Grace Hussey Bird, Charlie Ives, and Alice Marshall, and edited by Jacob Lovick. The music is by Cyclone Marlowe. It is based on an original idea created with Chaz Redhead. You can follow us on @Cinema Society on Twitter, email us on cinemasociety@gmail.com, and remember, cinema is always spelt with an S.